Senator the Honourable John Jeremy, Senior Counsel, Attorney General of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, the Honourable Devish Maharaj, Minister of Justice and Minister in the Ministry of the Attorney General, members of the Diplomatic Corps, Honourable Justices of Appeal and Judges of the High Court, Mr. Randall Karim, Permanent Secretary, Acting, Ministry of Foreign and CARICOM Affairs and Head of the Foreign Service, Judges of the Superior Courts of Record, former Presidents and Judges of the Caribbean Court of Justice, former Justices of Appeal and former Judges of the High Court, Ms. Lisa Showman, General Counsel, CARICOM, members of the Regional Judicial and Legal Services Commission, RJLSC, and trustees of the CCJ Trust Fund, former commissioners of the Regional Judicial and Legal Services Commission and former trustees of the CCJ Trust Fund, members of academia, presidents and members of the regional bar and law associations, staff of the Caribbean Court of Justice and the Regional and Judicial Legal Service Commission, specially invited guests, members of the media, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good morning and a very warm welcome to the Caribbean Court of Justice. This ceremonial sitting is convened to commemorate the inauguration of the fourth President of the Court, the Honourable Mr. Justice Winston Anderson. The members of the bench as follows: Mr. Justice Winston Anderson, President; Madam Justice Rajnath Lee; Mr. Justice Barrow; Mr. Justice Jamadar; Madam Justice Nonabu; Mr. Justice Ebu Usuji; the Honourable Chief Justice, Mr. Ivor Archie, ORTT, Chief Justice of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, the Honourable Madam Justice Roxanne George, Chancellor Acting, the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, the Honourable Madam Justice Louise Blenman, Chief Justice Belize, the Honourable Mr. Justice Leslie Haynes, Chief Justice of the Republic of Barbados, the Honourable Madam Justice Margaret Price Finlay, Chief Justice, Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court, Madam Justice Maureen Rajnath Lee, Judge of the Caribbean Court of Justice, will now preside over this morning's proceedings. Madam Justice Rajnath Lee.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Registrar. Of the Caribbean Court of Justice, heads of judiciaries, Honourable Attorney General, Honourable Minister of Justice, Excellencies, fellow judges from across the region, all distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Permit me to adopt the protocols which have been so graciously established. It is with profound honor and heartfelt joy that we gather today for this special sitting of the Caribbean Court of Justice to commemorate a truly historic occasion, the appointment of the Honourable Mr. Justice Winston Anderson as the fourth President of the Court. On behalf of the President, judges, registrar, and staff of the Caribbean Court of Justice, I extend a warm and sincere welcome to each and every one of you. It is my distinct pleasure and privilege to make some brief opening remarks on behalf of my colleagues and on my own behalf as we mark President Anderson's elevation to this distinguished office. His appointment is historic. He is the first Jamaican to ascend to the presidency of the court. His journey reflects a life devoted to the advancement of the rule of law, the protection of human rights, and the delivery of accessible justice to the peoples of our region. President Anderson has long been recognized as a jurist of exceptional scholarship, unwavering integrity, and visionary leadership. His distinguished career from professor and deputy dean at the University of the West Indies to general counsel to CARICOM, and his subsequent appointment to the CCJ bench in 2010 has been marked at every step by dedicated service to the peoples of our Caribbean region. President Anderson has been the driving force behind the CCJ Academy for Law, the educational arm of the court, serving as its chair since its establishment in 2010 when he first joined the bench. President Anderson, with the unstinted support of Justice Jacob Witt, who served as the Academy's deputy chair until his untimely passing in early 2024, has directed the Academy in pursuing solutions to pressing problems in our region. In particular, the Needham Point Declaration on Criminal Justice Reform, adopted at the Academy's 7th Biennial Conference in Barbados in 2023, has been influential in promoting wide-ranging and much-needed reforms to the criminal justice system. President Anderson has also championed the Academy's education and training initiatives for Caribbean judges and practitioners, and has passionately led the Academy's work to recognize and document the significant contribution of eminent Caribbean jurists. A distinguished international lawyer whose published works span diverse areas, such as the law of the sea, private international law, and environmental law. President Anderson's expertise in international law has enriched the court's jurisprudence. His long-standing support of the court's annual international law moot and emphasis on international law in the work of the Academy have promoted capacity building in this important field. President, your colleagues have consistently noted and deeply admired the integrity you bring to the court's deliberations, particularly in navigating the complex legal issues that so often arise. Your respectful engagement with different perspectives and your steadfast commitment to collaborative problem solving have not only elevated the quality of our discourse and enriched the work of the court, but have also inspired each of us. On a personal note, I wish to echo sentiments shared by the members of President Anderson's staff at an event marking the court's 20th anniversary celebrations hosted earlier this year. President Anderson was described as a leader who consistently demonstrates compassion, empathy, and understanding, qualities that have endeared him to those who work closely with him and have fostered a collegial and respectful environment within the court. In his inaugural address, President Anderson reminded us that he assumes office not in isolation, but as part of a regional movement of national judiciaries committed to justice, human rights, and sustainable development. His presidency begins at a time of rapid technological transformation and complex global challenges. In the face of these realities, President, your colleagues are confident that you will lead the court with wisdom, courage, and compassion. Under your stewardship, we are certain that the Caribbean Court of Justice will continue to serve as a beacon of hope, a pillar of integrity, and a steadfast guardian of the rights and dignity of our people. May Almighty God continue to guide your steps and grant you strength, peace, and wisdom. Thank you.
The protocol list having been established, I will not recite the names, but I will comment on what a pleasure it is to be able to say with no hyperbole, distinguished luminaries in the law, all welcome. In a larger forum, with a more important personage as a speaker, a complaint was made about the absence of a teleprompter. I will not complain about the absence of my computer and the speech that I am to deliver, because I am sure it is expected of me that I should be able, like counsel, to be able to deliver a presentation with hardly any preparation, although I did prepare, but I simply echo the practice of times past. And therefore, I offer the thought that when Justice Anderson was elevated, we all knew the judge with whom we were dealing. His prowess, his scholarship, his intellectual excellence were matters fully known. As was commented, I think he has, apart from one worthy here present, served for the longest time on the court, or perhaps two worthies. But so he's a known quantity as a judge. As my sister commented, he is also known as a leader of the CCJ Academy for Law. My recollection is that he, the Academy, has published 3 books, hosted numerous conferences, the most recent of which was the conference in Barbados that has produced the Needham's Point Declaration for Criminal Justice Reform, if I recall the title correctly, which has been embraced by a number of judiciaries across the region, which has been celebrated for the practical contribution or contributions it makes to the matter of the judiciary, of dealing with criminal justice, which, as we know, is an even more sore area of judicial work than civil cases. And therefore, we have much already to look to by way of his leadership. However, when he was appointed, there naturally had to be thoughts of, okay, we have had 3 very worthy and distinguished predecessors, 2 happily gathered with us today, and I pay particular tribute to them. And the question was, how will this great judge function as a leader? We have high expectations of him, but it is a human condition, and we've been told by our parents from childhood, do not take things for granted. And so I am sure that there had been lurking in the background little concerns about wondering how the leadership will turn out. It is often said that we learn much from little things. And that came home recently in the dealings of the bench. It has been inculcated in us the commitment of the judges, the staff, to ensure that the Caribbean Court of Justice retains its ranking internationally as a court of excellence. As his immediate predecessor was known to have said, excellence is not a state or a target that you achieve. It is a state that you maintain. And therefore, we are always conscious of the obligation to maintain that state and status. A conversation developed in relation to ensuring that in all areas and in a particular area, the court was deploying its resources, lending its thoughts to better development. And a conversation developed, as I said, by email correspondence between the judges, and some very noteworthy ideas emerged as to where we could develop and, I dare say, improve things. Not that anything was broken, not that anything needed fixing, but it is the nature of progress that there will be the need for institutions to keep abreast and, in fact, to continue leading. So there were these exchanges, robust, and the idea of how do we bring this now to culmination? How do we bring this to, as it were, a crystallized product? The ideas were nascent, and then came, with no drama, with no preliminary, a message from the president along the lines of, colleagues, this is the abstraction of what we have been discussing. These are the areas that we need to discuss further and reach some firm conclusions on. This is an expert from abroad who is experienced in this area in another jurisdiction, and having his contribution to our efforts can only benefit us for at least the comparison, even if not that he would be teaching us anything. And colleagues, this is the end result, I think, of what our deliberations should be. Just like that. The response was immediate and celebratory. Brilliant, it was hailed. It is a delight to acknowledge that brilliance. But more than that delight, there is comfort in being able to see this as the manifestation of the expectations that we had, and we can now put aside the caution of not taking things for granted and know that we have been granted that which we have wished. Thank you.
The Honourable Mr. Justice Winston Anderson, President of the Caribbean Court of Justice, Honourable Judges of the Caribbean Court of Justice, visiting Chief Justices and Heads of Judiciary, and distinguished jurists of the Commonwealth Caribbean, the Honourable Attorney General, Honourable Minister of Justice, Your Excellencies, President of the Law Association, other members of the legal fraternity, ladies and gentlemen. It is with a deep sense of pride that I offer heartfelt congratulations on behalf of myself and the judiciary of Trinidad and Tobago to you, Mr. President, on your elevation to the presidency of the Caribbean Court of Justice. Today's ceremony is not simply about a change in leadership. It celebrates the embodiment and continuance of a dream long held across this region, the dream of a Caribbean jurisprudence shaped by Caribbean minds and serving Caribbean people. Although this dream is still under construction, there can be no better argument in favor of its pursuit than the quality of the jurists who have sat on and led the CCJ bench. Your recent appointment gives us hope that we will remain on course. You are the latest in a line of presidents of impeccable judicial pedigree, and the people of the Caribbean should have confidence that we are well led and more than adequately served. It ought not to be long before all the territories of the region express that confidence in a more tangible way. Honourable President, your journey to this distinguished position is a remarkable story of talent, perseverance, and purpose. In you, we have the quintessential Caribbean jurist, a citizen of 2 Caribbean countries, and, if I may dare to claim it, domiciled in a third. From the village of Brittonville in St. Anne, Jamaica, to the halls of Cambridge, from the UWI to CARICOM, and now to the presidency of our highest regional court, your life journey exemplifies the boundless potential of our people and the enduring value of our regional institutions, not least the University of the West Indies, which has shaped so many of the region's finest jurists. Through your life journey, you bring a keen insight and deep experiential understanding of the region and its diverse peoples. You were also called to high judicial office relatively early in your career, so your resilience and jurisprudential caliber are already well established, as indeed are your humility, your willingness to entertain and understand differing viewpoints, and your eagerness to share in your vast store of knowledge. I am sure that the opportunity to observe your predecessors and the region's recent evolution would have deepened your appreciation of the profound responsibility now entrusted to you. But your story, Mr. President, is more than an inspiring personal narrative. You are, in every sense, this scholar jurist. Through your seminal works on environmental law, the law of the sea, and private international law, you have helped to lay the intellectual foundations of modern Caribbean jurisprudence. As the founding chairman of the CCJ Academy for Law, you have helped to create a lasting institution, one that nurtures judicial education and ensures that Caribbean legal thought will continue to evolve and to thrive. You now inherit a mantle once borne by giants. President Michael de Labastide, who laid this court's foundation. President Sir Dennis Byron, who ushered in a technological revolution. President Adrian Saunders, who deepened its jurisprudence and global standing. Your own distinguished service as General Counsel to CARICOM, as a scholar and a judge of this court for the last 15 years has prepared you perfectly to lead in this next chapter. We are especially encouraged by your vision to make justice more accessible to the people of our region and to deepen collaboration with national judiciaries. That is a mission and objective which we wholeheartedly share. The judiciary of Trinidad and Tobago stands ready to work with you in advancing that noble enterprise, strengthening our shared commitment to justice, the rule of law, and the building of a truly Caribbean legal order. Honourable President, as the Caribbean celebrates with you, we wish you wisdom, courage, and enduring success in your tenure. May your leadership guide this court to even greater heights, and may God bless you and the vital work of the Caribbean Court of Justice. Thank you.
Honourable Mr. Justice Winston Anderson, President of the Caribbean Court of Justice, judges of the Caribbean Court of Justice, and heads of judiciaries of CARICOM member states, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, kindly permit me to adopt the protocol so ably established. It is a distinct honor and privilege to participate in this special sitting of the Caribbean Court of Justice in honor of President Anderson. I begin with what I hold to be credible hearsay. I had heard Justice Anderson spoken of in legendary terms as a lecturer of the Faculty of Law, University of the West Indies. My law class, which attended Cave Hill from 1986 to 1988, was advised, and we verily believed, that due to him being on sabbatical pursuing his doctorate, we had missed a master lecturer. While I was aware that he was General Counsel of CARICOM and resident in Guyana, I first met Justice Anderson after he ascended the bench of the CCJ. I was struck by his warmth and engaging personality. Having conversed with him and observed him presiding over cases, I formed the impression that he's a person who is always engaged in analysis, approaching matters with intellectual rigor. An avid judicial educator, Justice Anderson brings to this leg of his professional journey his wealth of experience as a lecturer. His is a mission to ensure that the legal profession of the Caribbean is well informed and educated, especially on emerging legal issues. He has willingly facilitated sessions at judicial conferences in Guyana. He was instrumental in the development of the LLM program in international business and international law at the University of Guyana. His organization of the annual CCJ International Mooting Competition and pioneering leadership of the CCJ Academy for Law are trailblazing, cementing the CCJ as more than an apex court, for it is an institution that is committed to continuing legal education in order to foster the development of our region. Having read a number of his judgments, for example, Cedric Richardson and the Attorney General on the constitutionality of presidential term limits in Guyana, Pompey against the DPP on sentencing, which he authored with the late Justice Witt, and Guyana Geology and Mines Commission and BK International and Babulal on judicial review, it is evident that Justice Anderson has the ability to simply explain complex legal concepts. No doubt his experience as a lecturer lends to the clarity of his erudition. As such, in his 15 years on the CCJ bench, he has built up a repository of seminal jurisprudence, and we look forward to more of his learned judgments as president of the court. I have benefited from Justice Anderson's quiet kindness. He invited me to chair a session at an intellectual property law conference in Jamaica and to facilitate the outcomes session of the 7th Biennial Conference of the CCJ Academy for Law on criminal justice reform in the Caribbean. By his example, he encourages one to give generously of one's time, knowledge, and experience. Renowned, as we heard, as an expert and author on the law of the sea, private international law, and environmental law, and the holder of several regional and international appointments, Justice Anderson is living testimony of the scholarship of our region. The scholarship our region produces, a shining example of why we must have confidence in our own. As I watched the seal of the court being handed over into Justice Anderson's safe hands on July 6th this year, it occurred to me that as we celebrate 20 years of court excellence of the CCJ, his accession to the presidency honors its legacy and will positively shape its future. In this vein, I highlight Justice Anderson's remarks given at his swearing in as president of the CCJ, where he expressed the hope that more CARICOM member states would join the appellate jurisdiction of the court. Demonstrating his abiding commitment to our region, as referred to by Justice Raj North Lee, he said, and I quote, "As I assume the office of President of the Court, I do so not in isolation, but as part of a broader regional movement of national judiciaries dedicated to delivering accessible justice, ensuring respect for and advancing the rule of law, protecting and promoting human rights, and supporting sustainable development in our countries," end quote. These are inspiring words. They should motivate us to ensure that the rule of law is upheld with efficiency, honesty, and integrity for the benefit of the peoples we serve. President Anderson, on my own behalf and on behalf of the judiciary of Guyana, heartiest congratulations. We wish you God's richest blessings for your tenure as President of the Caribbean Court of Justice. As our apex court, we in Guyana look forward to your leadership as our regional justice project continues to grow from strength to strength. Thank you.
Honourable Mr. To adopt the protocols already highlighted. As probably the only non-lawyer speaking today, you can imagine how nervous I am at this moment to be speaking to nearly all lawyers in this room. Good morning. I am pleased to have received this invitation to deliver remarks on the occasion of the inauguration of the Honourable Mr. Justice Winston Anderson as the fourth President of the Caribbean Court of Justice. Justice Anderson's elevation is historic and deeply inspiring. A son of St. Anne, Jamaica, a jurist, scholar, regional servant, Justice Anderson was the first Jamaican appointed to the CCJ in 2010 and has now been entrusted with its presidency. His swearing in earlier this year in Montego Bay, Jamaica, symbolized both continuity and renewal for a Caribbean legal order and reminded us that this court belongs to all our peoples. It is for this reason that it is quite fitting to commemorate Justice Anderson's presidential appointment during Jamaica's chairmanship of the Conference of Heads of Government of CARICOM, which commenced in July of this year and will conclude in December. Mr. President, your record commends you to this moment. As a professor of international law and an established author on Caribbean and environmental law, private international law, and the law of the sea, you have helped shape the very jurisprudence that this court is called to cultivate. Your leadership of the CCJ Academy for Law has strengthened judicial education and institutional excellence across our region. These scholarly and administrative contributions, married to 15 years of service on this bench, equip you to steward the CCJ with integrity, balance, and vision. Indeed, your long-standing service in this region has demonstrated your belief in and commitment to the rule of law, the independence of the judiciary, and the continuity of regional jurisprudence. Please allow me to also express with gratitude our recognition of your predecessor for his exemplary stewardship, under which the court deepened its reputation for independence, accessibility, and thoughtful reasoning. That legacy sets a high bar. Your assumption of office assures us that the bar will be maintained and in due course raised. Colleagues, the CCJ is both a court and a covenant. In its original jurisdiction, it safeguards the revised Treaty of Chaguaramas, cultivating a body of law that speaks in a distinctly Caribbean voice. The project before us is to strengthen confidence in that covenant through excellence in adjudication, efficiency in case management, technological innovation that widens access, and respectful dialogue with our citizens about the value of this court that is regionally rooted and globally respected. Mr. President, as you take up this mantle, you do so at a time when the Caribbean faces interlocking challenges: security, climate resilience, economic transformation, each demanding a jurisprudence that is principled, pragmatic, and people-centered. The CCJ is relied upon to continue refining Caribbean law so as to protect rights, promote investment and innovation, and give practical effect to the promise of the single market and economy. Your lifelong engagement with environmental and maritime law uniquely positions you to guide the court's contribution to sustainable development and the blue economy that is our shared inheritance. Justice Anderson, the High Commission for Jamaica officially extends warmest congratulations on this well-deserved appointment and conveys best wishes for a successful tenure. You are certainly held in high esteem as a valued member of the Jamaican diaspora in the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, and we're very proud of your accomplishments in the country and across the region. I am confident that you will keep raising the Jamaican flag high. May your leadership be marked by wisdom without fear, humility without hesitation, and a steadfast dedication to justice that strengthens public trust across our community. The government of Jamaica remains confident that the court will continue to achieve growth and prosperity under the leadership and wisdom of Justice Anderson. Please rest assured of Jamaica's steadfast commitment to the values and mission shared by our CARICOM partners as we aim to preserve the Caribbean region as a zone of peace and cooperation in the years ahead. May God bless the Caribbean Court of Justice, and may God bless our Caribbean people. I thank you.
President Anderson, Honourable Judges of the Caribbean Court of Justice, my Chief Justice, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, please permit me to adopt all protocols already observed. President Anderson, it was in the year 2017 that you invited me to join the CCJ Academy for Law, which you led at that time and of which you are still the chair. And I speak confidently on behalf of all members of the Academy when I express our pride, our hope, and our unadulterated joy at your elevation to the post of President of the Caribbean Court of Justice. Your Honors, a tenet of classical Roman literature proclaims ad astra per aspera. This adage, widely attributed to the Roman poet Seneca the Younger, asserts that stellar accomplishments are achieved by hard work. Indeed, the meteoric career of the President stands as testament to the truth of this statement. I take your honors to the year 1981, in the idyllic setting of Cave Hill, Barbados, when the average second-year LLB law student had little time for more than the preparation of tutorials, studying for examinations, and the seasonal revelry. In their midst was a young Jamaican, already legendary for his brilliance, gravitas, and erudition in the law. He shouldered the Herculean task of writing an article for the faculty's annual academic publication, the Student Law Review. Should you have a look at the article, which is still available online through Google, you will be incredulous that it was the work of just a second-year law student. The young Winston Anderson, in an analysis of the doctrine of common mistake, under the title, Should There Be a Doctrine of Common Mistake in the West Indies?, undertook an analysis of this doctrine, beginning with the Jamaican decision of Air-Cool Awning Company Limited against Silvera Limited, which the author described as disheartening. The young student Anderson traced the history of the doctrine and demonstrated how there had been judicial attempts to explain it away. The student Anderson queried the decision of the English Court of Appeal in Saul against Butcher, the judgment of Lord Denning, someone of no less stature as Lord Denning. And Justice Anderson classified the decision as a feat in the Cavalier interpretation of inconvenient judicial precedent. He identified each competing theory with laser-like incisiveness, demonstrating their folly and suggesting that they be condemned to jurisprudential oblivion. The article is, however, remarkable not only for its insightfulness, but for the author's clear concern for the jurisprudence of the region. His article ends with the hope that the region's judges would have the opportunity to bypass the dubious English Court of Appeal interpretations. And in this way, President Anderson, then student Anderson, was forecasting the creation of a new, fearless, and independent regional jurisprudence, of which we are all happy to say he is at the helm today. Since 1981, publications by President Anderson have increased exponentially, as we've all heard, including textbooks on the law of the sea and international environmental law, all of which have a Caribbean leaning. Your Honors, it was our own Sir Dennis Byron, former president of the CCJ, who said, "The Caribbean Court of Justice is not a court of law, but a court of destiny." We are thankful to Almighty God today that President Anderson is part of that destiny. We look forward, President, to a Caribbean region being led by yourself, by your brilliance and dedication, ad astra, per aspera, to a destiny of peace, righteousness, and good order. Thank you, sir.
The Honourable Mr. Justice Anderson, President of the Caribbean Court of Justice, judges of the Caribbean Court of Justice and heads of judiciaries of member states, the Honourable Devish Maraj, Minister of Justice, members of the Diplomatic Corps, distinguished guests. Good morning, colleagues. I've been asked to speak for 5 minutes only, and that was underlined. Had that injunction allowed me 5 hours, I'm certain that I would not have been able to do fair justice to the new president of the Caribbean Court of Justice, Justice Anderson, who is my friend. I first met Justice Anderson when we were both university lecturers at the Faculty of Law. and that is at the University of the West Indies. Justice Anderson was based on the Cave Hill campus, and I was at the St. Augustine campus. We met regularly, but not every day and not every week. From the beginning, I was impressed with his calm demeanor and his integrity. Over the years, I came to appreciate and respect his deep commitment to the rule of law and to our Caribbean nation, to our Caribbean project. Justice Anderson spent some considerable time at the CARICOM Secretariat in Guyana, as we've heard this morning, where he worked as General Counsel to CARICOM, an experience that no doubt has served him well here at the court. Law is the indispensable means that ensures our freedoms and the certainty of our interactions. Without it, there is anarchy. I am confident that with Justice Anderson at the helm, the Caribbean Court of Justice will discharge the mandate first given to it by heads when they signed the agreement to establish the court in Barbados in 2021 and the protocol shortly thereafter, and with which it has faithfully been discharging in the 20 years from its inception. I thank Justice Anderson for his service, and on behalf of the people of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago and the region as a whole, I wish him well in navigating now the challenges that now lie before him. Thank you.
Our Honourable President, Winston Anderson, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Today, the Caribbean Court of Justice wins, but it is also a win for the University of the West Indies, and I claim it as such. It is therefore both an honor and a joy to address you today. Congratulations, Justice Anderson, on this incredible achievement to cap off an already impressive career. Given my own personal stance on the CCJ and lesser-known personal history with President Anderson, this was a request that I could not refuse. We were both colleagues at the UWI's Cave Hill campus. More importantly, we were comrades navigating a demanding law academic career together. While he joined the faculty before me, we earned our promotions at the same time, from lecturer to senior lecturer, then to professor, and we were each other's cheerleaders. I remember well, too, late evenings at the faculty, plodding along, defining our scholarship. So too I remember the many deep conversations we had about law and life, and more importantly, how law impacts and sculpts life. Even back then, it was evident to me that the young Dr. Anderson had a strong philosophical and spiritual code which he lived by and which shaped his career path and ambition. My views on the role of the CCJ in fashioning an indigenous jurisprudence to better serve our peoples are well known. We do not need rubber stampers and copycats. We need advocates and judges who identify with our ethos and understand our issues, reflect deeply on them, and then will go forth to support and even rebuild our legal system if needs be.
We have found such a person in Justice Anderson. His record to date at the CCJ and the CCJ's work itself exhibits the right balance of legal certainty, adherence to established legal principles, as well as a willingness to look beyond. President Anderson brought to the court a unique blend of expertise in international law, international trade law, conflict of laws, and environmental law. There were few persons at the time with such expertise, and the nascent CCJ needed it, especially in its original jurisdiction. Indeed, even today, this kind of expertise is not easily evident in that other place. All of these subject areas have grown in importance to the region. Coincidentally, he tells me he was encouraged to create what was then a pioneering environmental law course by his then head of department, Dr. Kenny Anthony, who ushered in this very CCJ as lead prime minister. He never looked back, but it feels like the completion of a circle. Consequently, while some of my colleagues expressed surprise when the young academic was named to the CCJ in 2010, it seemed to me pretty obvious. Consequently, since 2010, his contributions have been pivotal in shaping the court's jurisprudence and institutional development. He has quietly carried on the academic tradition to strengthen the work of the CCJ by establishing the Academy for Law. He was also the wings behind the CCJ's Eminent Jurist Awards. While I was dean, I invited him to be an adjunct lecturer at the Faculty of Law, and he continued to give us the benefit of his scholarship and experience with graciousness and dedication. His commitment to legal education in the Caribbean is without doubt. Justice Anderson, now President Anderson's leadership, has been instrumental in supporting the idea that the CCJ is not just a court, but a vehicle for decolonization and justice that represents something more fundamental: how the law should treat with citizens. Further, his ascension to the role of president comes at a pivotal time in our region. As small island developing states, the unique challenges we face must be taken into consideration when engaging with multilateral organizations like the WTO. We are already witnessing a surge in protectionist policies in lieu of free trade, underscoring the need for stronger regional integration. This challenge is further compounded by international financial mechanisms that rely on sometimes outdated assumptions, which often fail to reflect the lived realities of our citizens. It is here that the CCJ has the greatest potential. It stands as a powerful instrument to further legal coherence and institutional support for a more unified Caribbean. Given President Anderson's track record, I am confident that he will ensure the fullest and most equitable administration of justice in both the appellate and original jurisdictions of the court. As countries, including Trinidad and Tobago, continue to grapple with the issues surrounding the CCJ, I urge policymakers, some of whom are in this room, and those in government to revisit the debates and decisions. The Privy Council is a relic of colonialism and a symbol of our enduring self-doubt that we need not take with us into our future. Let us use President Anderson's assumption to the presidency to represent a strategic turning point for us in the region and combat the multipolarization we are witnessing today by advancing Caribbean jurisprudence and strengthening regional integration. Congratulations once again, President Anderson, on becoming the 4th president of the CCJ. I'm confident that despite the many, many challenges, you will steer us well at the helm. God bless.
Good morning. Hopefully I can be seen as well as heard. I am so sorry. May I continue?
Yes, please continue. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Justice. Good morning. Please permit me to adopt all the salutations and protocol which have already been established. Mr. President, Your Honors, today we are gathered to mark and celebrate an auspicious occasion, the start of a new era in the cycle of sittings of the Caribbean Court of Justice, and to bear witness to the commencement of the President of Mr. Justice Winston Anderson, or 4th CCJ President. It is an occasion that once again affirms and celebrates the decision of our heads in setting up the Caribbean Court of Justice, which in its original jurisdiction is the final dispute resolution mechanism under the revised Treaty of Chaguaramas. It is a powerful affirmation of the values that guide us as a community: the rule of law, the independence of the judiciary, and the continuity of our regional jurisprudence. For the Caribbean community, the Caribbean Court of Justice, along with the Conference of the Heads of Government, is a crucial underpinning of our integration movement, which is now in its second century, half century. The innings of these next 4 years in the CCJ, helmed by President Anderson, will shape and transform our community. Full free movement is now a reality for 4 of our member states: Barbados, Belize, Dominica, and St. Vincent and the Grenadines. In the next 4 years, more member states will join these 4, and the promise of our founding fathers in Chaguaramas will become a reality for, we hope, all member states of the Caribbean community. We face a time of global instability, insecurity, and turmoil. More than ever, CARICOM depends on our commitment to integration, to the respect for human rights and the rule of law. The Caribbean Court of Justice plays a seminal role in offering the community guidance, support, and a guarantee of impartial decision-making, particularly in its original jurisdiction. We in the Secretariat look forward to interesting times ahead with a citizenry that is increasingly invested in making our integration movement function at its optimum. And Mr. President, we look forward to your steady, learned hand in steering this honorable court. Tough times may call for tough decisions, maybe even rock-hard decisions. And we are all comforted by the fact that we have a panel of eminent jurists helmed by an experienced president to guide us through the sometimes turbulent waters of our region. As president, you will preside not only over judgments, but also shape the tone, integrity, and institutional strength of the court itself. This leadership will be crucial as we navigate complex legal issues in an era defined by technological change, rapid social transformation, and global interconnectedness. You can expect, Mr. President, during your tenure, a set of vigorous overs, with balls being bowled rapidly in both the appellate and the original jurisdiction, and claims filed by member states, CARICOM nationals, and requests for advisory opinions being made on a number of pressing issues. We look forward to your tenure with faith and confidence, knowing that this invaluable body under the revised Treaty of Chaguaramas is in good, knowledgeable, and capable hands. The office of President carries not only the highest responsibility within the judicial system, but it also embodies the trust and confidence of the people of the Caribbean. It is a role that calls for wisdom in judgment, integrity in conduct, and leadership in times of challenge and change. We believe that your presidency, and therefore our CCJ, is the very embodiment of all these sterling qualities, and we are happy that yours will be the hands that will guide us in the years to come. And in the next 7 years of your presidency, in the name of the Secretary General, Dr. Carla Barnett, we at the CARICOM Secretariat wish you, Mr. President, and your honors of the Caribbean Court of Justice all the very best, and pledge to accompany you in this most important responsibility to our community. Thank you.
May I begin by asking your pardon for having demonstrated my anxiety to return to in-court, in-person hearings in sittings of this honorable court. Now, may it please you, Mr. President, honorable judges, may I be permitted to say all protocols observed, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Let me start by disclosing at the very start that the Honourable President is a friend of mine, and that is so I wouldn't be accused of non-disclosure. We first met over 2 decades ago at the old Kensington Oval in the Cigarfield Sobers Pavilion, watching West Indies cricket, Test cricket. This happened on more than one occasion in those times. Let me say that in those days, there was very little conversation engaged in other than cricket. This was because as ardent cricket fans in that era, when West Indies were still competitive, we observed the occurrences on the fields of play with very little interface other than showing our intensity and attention to what was going on. Those days are very unlikely to return. The Honourable Judge has demonstrated his continuing interest in the game by assuming the chairmanship of the International Cricket Council, as well as the Disciplinary Committee of Cricket West Indies. However, we're not here to talk about cricket. What we're here to do is to focus on our attention on what the learned president brings to this honourable court. First of all, we must deal and recognize his vast range of knowledge derived from a multiplicity of publications on Caribbean law for over 3 decades. Secondly, we're dealing with his vast range of experience in sitting as a judge of this court for 15 years prior to his elevation to the presidency. And thirdly, we're dealing with his international recognition and adjudication outside of the Caribbean. in terms of having sat as a judge of the Global Court of Arbitration for Sport and as president of the Court of Appeal for the Seychelles. Now, let me talk about our collaboration in the practice of law. Excuse me. After the Honourable Judge left the CARICOM Secretariat, and for some years before that, we collaborated from time to time on issues of Caribbean law. In preparing these remarks, my wife and law partner reminded me that whilst the judge was on sabbatical from the university, he was involved in one of the very cases presented in the original jurisdiction in this court some 18 years ago. At that time, we were preparing submissions to be filed before this court, and he assisted us by providing a comprehensive note on a matter in which we had little knowledge, but on which he had very great knowledge. This was in the field of private international law. The outcome was positive. The foregoing input would have been informed by the President's extensive publications and articles on Caribbean law and international law over the past 3 decades, as evidenced by 5 textbooks. Let me turn to mention his leading judgments as a judge of this honorable court. First of all, I'm sure he's proud of his judgment in the case of Marin, Attorney General of Belize, dealing with the scope and extent of liability of former government ministers whose conduct may be challenged after they leave office. Secondly, there's the Apsara case on appeal from Barbados, which dealt with a number of matters of insurance law, and particularly the scope and extent of the duty of disclosure. All of his input in our litigation would have been informed by his time at the CARICOM Secretariat, acting as General Counsel for 3 years. This exposure, over and above anything else, would have given him great familiarity with the revised Treaty of Chaguaramas and its application in the sphere of the original jurisdiction. Let me say that if I can respectfully adopt all that has been said by previous speakers in respect of his knowledge, but at the end of the day, the real issue is what is the road ahead for this court. The question is, the judge, the Honourable President, shares the view of all of his 3 predecessors that Caribbean jurisprudence ought to be developed by this being the apex appellate court for all Caribbean countries. I'm minded to refer to the late Sir Sridhar Ramphal's speech or lecture in September 2011 to the Trinidad and Tobago Judicial Education Institute, entitled Creating a Regional Jurisprudence. In that lecture, Sir Sridhar said, and I quote, "Caribbean countries should stop loitering on the doorstep of colonialism." And he went on to raise the question, and I quote, "Must we wait for such eviction when we already built for Caribbean law so fine a dwelling place?" He was refused, of course, referring to this court. And that raises a very important question, which one should not be shy to pose. When will the Judicial Committee of the Privy Council be replaced as the final appellate court for all Caribbean countries? Whilst one is not in a position to predict, it is my opinion that it's quite likely that during the presidency of the Honourable Mr. Justice Anderson, this court could very well emerge as the final appellate court for all the Caribbean by 2032, before he demits office. Let me end by wishing him God's richest blessings as he embarks upon his journey of further development of regional jurisprudence in the Caribbean, which we legal professionals must all be proud of and applaud. Thank you.
Honourable President Winston Anderson, judges of the Caribbean Court of Justice, and other distinguished judges on the bench. It is a profound honor and immense pleasure for me to stand here on this historic occasion, not merely to celebrate transition of leadership, but to inaugurate a president whose life's work has prepared him for this very moment. Having listened to the eloquent tributes from my colleagues, the ground has been very well prepared and covered, which permits me to abbreviate my remarks. So my aim, therefore, is not to repeat, but to reinforce our collective confidence in you. We place our trust in you as a jurist of profound intellect, unwavering principle, and a heart that is dedicated to the people of this region. And today, Jamaica has a son she can be profoundly proud of. My task, as I see it, is simply to affirm the absolute confidence that this court and the region places in you, my Lord. And I think that is really the easiest of tasks, because your record speaks with clarity and force that needs little embellishment. You have combined the highest scholarship with unswerving commitment to justice, an intellect that is not just sharp, but is generative. You have been not only a consumer of jurisprudence, but also a creator of it. As the author of seminal textbooks, you have shaped the minds of a generation of Caribbean lawyers. You think deeply about the law, not as an abstract set of rules, but as a living instrument for justice. Your judicial legacy already speaks for itself. And I pick out, well, a case that has been mentioned by my colleague, Marion Coy against Attorney General of Belize, which was your very first substantive opinion. Which did not just apply the law, it revolutionized it. You boldly reconceived the thought of misfeasance in public office, animating a cause of action hitherto frozen in its historical crypt, and demonstrating a judicial courage that looks forward, not backwards. In Vincent Edwards against the Queen, matter from Barbados, the court faced a conviction that was based solely on a disputed and unrecorded confession. And you displayed both bravery and humanity by insisting that the law, especially when a life hangs in the balance, demands more. I thought that the decision to quash the conviction was a powerful affirmation that our system must convict only on plausible and credible proof. Now, this concern for criminal justice contributed to fueling your visionary leadership as the founder and leader of the Caribbean Court of Justice Academy for Law. And it's notable that many of my predecessors have spoken of the historic Needham's Point Declaration, which was authored through your institution. Its unanimous endorsement by Caribbean governments is a powerful testament to the region's acceptance of your leadership, providing a concrete framework for our collective fight against crime. The Declaration's 39 recommendations form a holistic blueprint for a more effective and just criminal justice system. Now, the third and last case I would mention was the Belize Bank against the Attorney General of Belize. And we saw the scholar and the judge seamlessly merge. The masterful handling of private international law was a lesson drawn from the pages of your own textbook, which, with characteristic modesty, you did not cite not even once in the judgment. These cases and contributions reveal a unifying thread, a mind dedicated to principle, a spirit committed to fairness, and an indefatigable drive to raise the standard of Caribbean jurisprudence. Now, I think that your stature, as has been mentioned by most previous speakers, extends far beyond the courtroom. You have served our community with distinction, not only our community, but the international community, in a myriad of capacities. Governance of West Indies cricket, to the frontiers of international environmental law. And I think that it is already fair to say that your judicial leadership has earned international recognition, evinced not only by the citation of some of your judgments across global jurisdictions, but also in your esteemed appointment as the head of the Apex Court of the Seychelles. Now, I had the privilege of working alongside you during my presidency of this court. And from the very beginning, I was impressed by your keen intellect and profound commitment to the concept of a homegrown final appellate court. And it was obvious that you understood in your very soul the value of the Caribbean court for the Caribbean people. As I observed you, I concluded that you had all of the human qualities and virtues that one would wish to see in a judge, and I dare say, in a leader. You have embodied integrity, intellectual excellence, and humanity. And at the heart of the vision, I see a profound but simple truth, which is justice for people. You have demonstrated a belief in the inherent dignity and equality of all. You stand for justice that is inclusive, that is humane, and fair to every member of our Caribbean family. I think this unique combination, a towering intellect, demonstrable leadership, deep humanity, and an unwavering belief in our regional project makes you an ideal president for this moment. President Anderson, the trust we place in you today, I think you have earned. We have every confidence that under your stewardship, the Caribbean Court of Justice will not only flourish, but will firmly secure its place as the indispensable guardian of justice in our region. Congratulations, Mr. President. I wish you every success. And I pray that God will bless you and guide you as you assume and fulfill destiny. Thank you.
Honourable President and judges of the Caribbean Court of Justice and distinguished visiting heads of judiciaries. It is with a deep sense of occasion that these remarks are delivered on behalf of the staff of the Caribbean Court of Justice and the Regional Judicial and Legal Services Commission. Given that these remarks are the final offering in a rich tapestry of tributes, it is fair to say that almost every adjective to describe the President has been summoned. But I will still try to find some more. The significance of this day of commemoration has not been lost on us, the staff. The 6th of October 2025 marks exactly 3 months after the President was sworn in Montego Bay, Jamaica. But it also coincides with the opening of the court year 2025-2026, a convergence that symbolically heralds a new chapter in the life of the court, imbued with promise and purpose. President Anderson's distinguished career as an academic, legal practitioner, and judge has been etched into the annals of Caribbean jurisprudence. Yet, it is his emergence as a leader of this court that commands my attention today. His ascension has been characterized not by disruption, but by discernment. A period of quiet observation, thoughtful inquiry, and reflective engagement preceded and has obtained in these early days of his formal assumption of office. It is this deliberate approach that has engendered a seamless transition, one marked by continuity, collegiality, and calm. This transition is smooth partly because of our third president, Mr. Justice Adrian Saunders, but also in large part because of Justice Anderson. All those before me have highlighted one of the president's most prominent traits, a commitment to excellence. We clearly see this in his judicial work, but permit me to share further evidence. President Anderson has been a steward of numerous court committees and initiatives even before his presidency. He has been the chairman of the court's Strategic Planning Committee, which has met consistently over the last 18 months. This strategic plan will be launched in the coming weeks. He is the chairman of the Policies and Procedures Approval Committee, a committee responsible for the review and revision of over 25 of the court's governance documents. He has been a member and is now the chair of the Executive Subcommittee, thereby playing a crucial role in the internal monitoring and evaluation of the court's work. We cannot fail to mention his pivotal role in the establishment of the Caribbean Community Administrative Tribunal, CCAT, a judicial arm of CARICOM to address employee grievances. Together with his co-chairmanship of the Eminent Caribbean Jurist Committee, which has led to the Eminent Caribbean Jurist Series. These again underscore his dedication to institutional development, and the preservation of Caribbean legal heritage. Of course, his sterling leadership of the CCJ Academy for Law cannot be overlooked. Indeed, he has made a mark in this court beyond its judgments and has contributed to its operational excellence with diligence and vision. His leadership has also been felt in the quiet moments, his care for his colleagues on the bench, in random gestures of kindness, his attentiveness to his own wellness and to others, his willingness to collaborate. How many times have we said to each other, let's sleep on it? His unwavering support for staff and a deep abiding concern for people. I recall his compassion for his administrative officer when he was on extended medical leave. His occasional sharing with me on his humble beginnings. I have seen him with his children, spoken with them, and heard their shared pride. I recall him taking a group out to lunch after the 2023 CCJ Academy for Law Conference, willing to hear our views when discussing even then the topic and theme for the 2025 CAL Conference. He has a deep sense of collegiality again and values the opinions of others. Ms. Chelsea Dookie, our most senior judicial counsel, has remarked that his steady guidance and high expectations have inspired the court's judicial council as attorneys to refine their craft and broaden their thinking. A sentiment similarly expressed by our Chief Librarian, Ms. Cheryl Washington Vialva, and Chief HR Officer, Ms. Patrice Valentine, when the former said, "Collaboration with President Anderson enriched our understanding of legal principles, guiding our research and deepening our appreciation for the law." And the latter said, "President Anderson is unafraid to acknowledge what he does not know and actively seeks out the answers, demonstrating a deep commitment to serving the court with excellence." Such sentiments are not uncommon. In fact, I received others, but time does not permit recital. However, they all reflect a collective recognition of a leader whose contributions to the court over the past 15 years have transcended the boundaries of the courtroom and whose influence has shaped the very ethos of the institution. As the court embarks upon this new chapter, sir, it is with confidence and optimism that the staff pledge their continued support to you, the President. It is believed firmly and without reservation that under your leadership, the CCJ will be steered with wisdom, upheld by integrity, and propelled by vision. May every success attend your presidency. Thank you.
Excellencies, fellow judges, Honourable Attorney General, Honourable Ministers and other members of Parliament, members of the Diplomatic Corps, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Permit me to rely on the detailed order of protocol established earlier and simply to wish you a pleasant good morning. Welcome to the Caribbean Court of Justice, the Regent's Court, your court. And I do so especially in this our 20th anniversary year. I am sincerely grateful to all of you present here this morning, whether physically or virtually. My special gratitude to the warm and encouraging words that have been delivered. I am humbled and inspired by them. Humbled because of the expression of confidence reposed in my appointment as the fourth president of the Caribbean Court of Justice. Inspired because of the expression of assurance that under my stewardship, the CCJ will continue to play a definitive role in the development of Caribbean jurisprudence. Speakers before me have managed to map the milestones of my evolution in the law from my entry as a shy student into the Faculty of Law of the University of the West Indies to my long academic career, mainly at that institution, to my important stint at the Caribbean Community Secretariat in Guyana, to my 15 years tenure on this bench. Thank you again, most sincerely. And I thank you not only for your kind words, but more importantly, for relieving me of any necessity to traverse those paths again. So please allow me to begin by recognizing the foundational work of my predecessors in this office, as indeed I had reason to do at my swearing in July this year. Our first president, Justice Michael de la Bastide, laid the groundwork, leading the inaugural bench, which crafted the first procedural rules, heard the first cases, and established a high bar of judicial erudition. Our second president, Sir Dennis Barron, brought the technological revolution into the operations of the court, and by dint of his personality and outreach efforts, made space for the court in the regional and international arenas. And the third president, my immediate predecessor, Justice Adrian Saunders, the last member of the inaugural bench, furthered that mission by providing outstanding leadership in both the strategic direction and judicial work of the court. These three legal stalwarts and the judges who supported them, together with our hardworking staff, laid a solid foundation for this court to prosper. They have graciously passed the baton onto this bench and to this court. Over the course of my tenure, I hope to continue progressing the efficiency and transparency of the court's work. In that regard, I would like this morning to briefly mention a few areas of our judicial work which will receive special attention. First and foremost, the emphasis will be placed on the continued production of superior judgments. In the 20 years of its existence, the CCJ has accumulated a significant body of judicial precedents. The court has delivered a total of 347 decisions, comprising 40 in the original jurisdiction, including one advisory opinion, and 307 decisions in the appellate jurisdiction, or the AJ. While our caseload has been modest, as I stated in July, the decisions of the court have begun to shape the way that we, the Caribbean people, live our lives and how we see ourselves. I suspect that this view needs little advocacy in relation to the original jurisdiction in which all 12 CARICOM member states participate. The CCJ has firmly rooted the CARICOM Single Market and Economy, CSME, in the rule of law, ensuring that the rights of all community nationals under the RTC are respected. A sense of belonging to a community governed by law has begun to take shape in our region. The greater work remains to be done in relation to the appellate jurisdiction. We hope and have reason to believe that the people of those member states who have acceded to the AJ recognize our contribution. And we hope that those states which have not yet acceded will ultimately come to appreciate the value the court offers to the region. The existence of the CCJ has significantly increased the access by Caribbean citizens to final appellate justice. For example, there were 19 appeals from Barbados to the Privy Council in the 20 years immediately before 2005. An increase, before 2005. In the 20 years since then, there have been 105 appeals from Barbados to the CCJ, an increase of over 450%. In the case of Belize, there were 33 appeals to the Privy Council in the 15 years before accession to the CCJ's appellate jurisdiction in 2010. Since then, there have been 56 appeals from Belize to the CCJ, an increase of over 69%. For Dominica, the numbers were 3 to the Privy Council in the 10 years before joining the AJ in 2015, and 10 in the 10 years since then, an increase of 233%. St. Lucia sent 1 appeal to the Privy Council in the 2 years immediately before joining the AJ in 2023, and sent 5 to the CCJ in the 2 years since, an increase of 400%. The average increase in appeals has been 288%. I should say that Guyana is the court's largest, and in that sense, at least, or best consumer of appellate services. But the comparisons are not easily made, given that that member state abolished appeals to the Privy Council in 1970. Permit me to make 2 points loosely related to the foregoing. On the hypothesis of an average increase of 288% in appeals, there would have been a significantly larger number of CCJ appellate decisions had there been full compliance with the obligation in the CCJ agreement for all member states to join the appellate jurisdiction of the court. Instead of 307 decisions, there would have been approximately 1,200 decisions. The opportunity cost of non-accession can therefore be measured in terms of reduced access to justice, which is also a denial of justice. Equally, there is a corresponding loss in the opportunity to fulfill the mandate of the CCJ agreement to develop a Caribbean jurisprudence that is responsive to all areas of Caribbean life. Whilst we await the accession of our 7 remaining jurisdictions, an important phenomenon should not go unnoticed. CCJ decisions in the appellate jurisdiction are given favorable treatment and are increasingly being cited and relied upon by judiciaries in countries which have not yet acceded to the AJ. A recent study indicates that there are at least 450 instances where courts in non-AJ countries have accepted and relied upon decisions of this court in numerous areas, such as constitutional and statutory interpretation, criminal law and sentencing, enforcement of foreign judgments and awards, commercial law, and adverse possession. This trend is an encouraging sign for the development of a body of jurisprudence applicable across the entire region. Very soon, the court will launch its new strategic plan for the next 7 years, 2025 to 2032. The plan reflects our overarching mission to harness and advance the growth in Caribbean jurisprudence. It embraces our vision of judicial excellence, supporting by ever-evolving institutional capacities and competencies. Our core values remain a steadfast compass, and the lodestar continues to be the unrelenting pursuit of justice. The strategic plan recognizes as the first area for strategic priority and intervention the continued delivery of high-quality judgments to the people and states of the community. It considers the efficient management of court operations to be essential to upholding the CCJ's reputation for judicial excellence and independence. Our bench and administrative support will maintain a constant line of sight to the mission and vision of the court. The pride of place given in our strategic plan to the judicial output symbolizes in a powerful way that administrative and logistical activities of the court will be intentional in their support of the court's overriding function. An aspect of judicial decision-making to which keen attention will be paid is the need to provide clarity of judicial guidance from the apex court. Subject to the overriding principle of judicial independence, we will endeavor to seek consensus and avoid a multiplicity of similar opinions. Instead of nuances in reasoning of similar opinions, the court will prioritize the importance of speaking with a clear voice, presenting coherent guidance, and delivering transparent justice. We will constantly review our procedures for decision-making with a view to creating various opportunities for discussion, consensus, dissension, challenge, agreement, all of which are critical to the adjudicative process. This is a point worth stressing in the context of the blessing of a diverse bench. Over the past 2 decades, the court has benefited from the experience of judges from across the region and across the world. Naturally, most of our judges have hailed from member states of the Caribbean community: Barbados, Belize, Guyana, Jamaica, St. Kitts and Nevis, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Trinidad and Tobago, and others, of course, are promised. However, we have had one judge from the United Kingdom, one from the Netherlands, and now one from Nigeria. We have had men and women from various ethnicities, religions, and legal backgrounds. Matters that have come before us have inevitably been viewed through varying lenses and perspectives. This has strongly influenced and strengthened our judicial reasoning and has also counseled against unnecessary judicial splintering. Another area requiring attention is the promotion of accessibility to the court's judgments. It is essential that we make our judgments easily available to all our stakeholders, judicial officers, legal practitioners, law students, and the public. The court's website contains all our judgments. Our online library catalog makes all judgments and publications of the court readily available. Our cases are periodically published in the West Indian law reports. But accessibility may require a deeper dive. Searchability of judgments is essential to ensuring that relevant cases are followed or cited as appropriate. It is here that technology can play a vital role. The court will continue our drive to use technology in advancement of judicial efficiency. Most recently, in partnership with the Caribbean Agency for Justice Solutions, CAJS, we have sought to leverage artificial intelligence with the hope of harnessing its transformative benefits. The recent introduction of the court's AI tool, Ask CCJ, has been a step in that direction. It is a tool designed to support and accelerate the research process for judges, judicial counsel, library, and registry staff. As its informational base, Ask CCJ has the full repository of the court's judgments, as well as publications, speeches, and other knowledge products produced by the court. It can perform sophisticated analyses and generate concise summaries
and insights into judicial decisions. AI is essential to fulfilling our responsibility to deliver justice efficiently, to protect and safeguard fundamental rights, and to uphold the rule of law in a rapidly evolving world. In facilitating the search of judgments, Ask CCJ is a very useful tool to ensure consistency and coherence in the decisions of our court and in other courts interested in our judgments. Of course, AI's impact on the legal profession goes much further than its utility as a search engine for our judgments. As more legal practitioners incorporate AI into their research activities, legal drafting, and case strategy, we considered it prudent to issue earlier this year a practice direction on the proper use of generative AI in court proceedings. Recent unfortunate developments in some of our jurisdictions, such as Trinidad and Tobago and in the Bahamas, where cases hallucinated by AI were cited by counsel and properly deprecated by the court, emphasize the need for vigilance in preserving the integrity of our judicial proceedings. At the CCJ, we will continue to monitor the advancements in this field and to responsibly incorporate emerging technologies to support our work. Even while we maximize the use of technology, the court will continue to facilitate and encourage persons to engage in in-person hearings. We hope you will agree that we have a superb venue here in Courtroom 1 for such hearings. I acknowledge a partnership with the European Union, which has led to this refurbished and forward-looking courtroom. And also, in due course, we intend to intensify our itinerant sittings so that, as I said in July this year, the people of the region can see us, interact with us, and realize that we are, in fact, their kith and kin and part and parcel of the fabric of their society. Finally, by happy serendipity, this special sitting coincides with the start of the 2025 court year. For the future, we intend to commemorate the start of the court year by appropriate ceremony that emphasizes the enduring importance of courts as the cornerstone of justice and of the rule of law. Courts ensure laws are applied fairly, uphold individual rights, and maintain public trust through impartiality and transparency. The ceremonial opening of the court year is a moment for all legal professionals to reflect and to recommit to their calling to pursue justice. In a world facing complex legal and moral dilemmas, the law must be upheld as a beacon of reason, fairness, and civilization. And the start of the court year is the most propitious time to call attention to that fact. In closing, permit me to acknowledge and thank my colleagues and staff at the CCJ for their extraordinary strong support and encouragement over these past 3 months. The CCJ is blessed with an excellent bench of vibrant, experienced, and collegial jurists, and a cadre of competent managers and staff, all of whom are committed to the mission and vision of the court, and to all of whom I am deeply grateful. Again, I would like to thank you all for the singular honor of your presence and support today. I assure you that this day will be a light that shines in trying places when other lights grow dim. Again, thank you most sincerely.